Good evening. It is time for today's Tax Talk. I'm your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. We're going to talk a little bit about Joe Manchin. Senator Joe Manchin, Democrat, has vowed to vote no on the IRS Commissioner nomination from the President of the United States, Joe Biden. That's what we're going to talk about tonight. Won't you join us? It is Wednesday. I forgot to do this. Wednesday, March 8th, year of our Lord 2023. I usually do that before the intro, but I forgot. Anyway, so we're going to talk about Joe Manchin. You know, Joe Manchin, he does a lot of brave things when it doesn't really count. When it counts, he's not a brave guy. He goes along, he gets along. And that's what he's doing today with this vote against Werfel means really nothing because there's Republicans are supporting this gentleman too. I guess they really don't have much of a choice since anybody they put up, even Reddick, who is the guy that Trump put up, not really a conservative's friend, and really worked with the Democrats when they got in. So, but I think he was trying to save his job. Didn't work. He was ousted. As soon as they can get rid of him, they did. So. Well, let's look at this. Let's look at the story and see what's going on. Here's the Biden's nominee for IRS Commissioner teed up for confirmation because it's true. He's going to get confirmed, even though Joe Manchin doesn't want him confirmed. Actually, Joe Manchin even says he wants him confirmed. He just doesn't like the way the president's going about implementing some laws. So let's read the story. The Senate is posed to confirm President Joe Biden's pick to head the IRS after he cleared a key procedural hurdle, but it postponed a vote until Thursday. The Senate voted 51-44 to limit debate on the confirmation of Daniel Werfel, but he lost the support of one Democrat, Joe Manchin, who's embroiled in a nasty fight with the administration over electric vehicle credits. Well, that's not what he says. Werfel would take charge of the IRS as it gears up to spend an unprecedented $80 billion funding infusion to crack down on tax cheats and update the agency's woefully outdated technology. We're going to talk a little bit about it. There's a story about that too, so we'll talk a little bit about that. He'll also face the ire of Republicans who have launched an offensive against the agency and the new funding. But they're not opposing him. Werfel, a veteran of the federal fiscal agencies, such as the Office of Management and Budget, he was also temporary head of the IRS before, who most recently headed up Boston Consulting Group's global public practice, drew the support of 6 Republicans. He appeared headed toward confirmation on Wednesday before Democratic leaders postponed the vote as the chamber continued debating abortion legislation and the effort to block progressive D.C. crime law. In a floor speech Wednesday, Finance Committee Chair lauded Werfel's competency and professionalism, citing the nominee's experience navigating turbulent political waters as acting commissioner of the IRS in 2013 when the agency came under fire for allegedly. See, this always gets me because here it says for allegedly targeting conservatives. No, it was admitted. Okay, the investor. Not only was it admitted, the investigators determined that that's what happened. But but all these stories are allegedly. But anytime it goes against a Republican, it is a fact. He helped right the ship and improve confidence in the IRS. No, he didn't. Werfel will face pressure from the Democrats to show results from the new funding by boosting audit rates on wealthy taxpayers, which have plunged in recent years, as all of them have. As well as improving customer service, faster processing of tax returns and refunds, and upgrading the agency's ancient IT infrastructure in the computer systems. Because $14 billion a year, which is what they were getting before this, it wasn't enough to keep up with the IT, even though they've been talking about uploading or updating the IT since 1970s. So I don't know why haven't they done that? House Republicans have promised to haul the IRS commissioner before oversight committees to testify on leaks of taxpayer data and whether the agency will be using its new funding to pursue middle-class taxpayers and small businesses. Well, isn't that their job? Despite a pledge from Joe Biden not to increase on those making less than 400,000, Werfel seemed to have provided reassurance on at least some of those issues to GOP members who voted for him: Cassidy, Collins, Grassley, Murkowski, Tillis, and Young. Sometimes when you interview these nominees, you get a sense of whether or not they have genuine plans, said Young. Werfel volunteered to me that of some of the plans he has to improve operations, but he also showed the requisite humility for a manager stepping into an environment where there'll be certain new discoveries. Manchin, on the other hand, has been battling the Treasury Department over what he considers misguided interpretations of legislation Democrats pushed into law last summer, expanding tax credits for electric vehicles, and a slew of other green energy programs. Manchin and Schumer largely wrote the legislation, and yet he's still opposing it. While Werfel is supremely qualified to serve as the IRS Commissioner, I have zero faith he will be given the autonomy to perform the job in accordance with the law, and for that reason, I cannot support his nomination, Manchin said in a statement. Yeah. What a brave guy, right? Remember now, this was the Inflation Reduction Act. I always have to laugh when I say that. And Manchin was the vote. He was the deciding vote. They did not get one Republican. So now Manchin won't vote for this because he doesn't like the way that they're implementing the legislation that he was the deciding vote on. And now that it's passed, he opposes it. Does that make any sense? No, it doesn't. The answer is it doesn't. Okay. This is from the Hill. Senator Joe Manchin on Wednesday announced he will vote against Daniel Werfel, President Biden's choice to head the Internal Revenue Service, because he is unhappy with how Biden administration is implementing the Inflation Reduction Act, which provided nearly $80 billion in new funding for the tax enforcement agency. Manchin is fuming mad over the administration's implementation of the generous electric vehicle tax credits that were also included in the sweeping climate and tax reform bill passed last summer. This is the Inflation Reduction Act, which is really the climate and tax reform bill, so they say, because it's certainly not the Inflation Reduction Act. At every turn, this administration has ignored congressional intent when implementing the Inflation Reduction Act, he said in a statement, criticizing the administration's decision to delay guidelines about who receives the electric vehicle tax credits. While Daniel Werfel is supremely qualified to serve as the IRS Commissioner, I have zero faith he will be given the autonomy to perform the job in accordance with the law, and for that reason, I cannot support his nomination. Didn't we hear that already? Yeah, we did. The Senate is scheduled to vote on Werfel's nomination late Wednesday afternoon. I think they pushed that to Thursday. And Democrats say he has enough support to win the confirmation. 6 Republican senators voted to advance Werfel on the procedural vote held lunchtime. And we already talked about them. The Senate will hold a final confirmation vote on Werfel sometime after 5:15 Wednesday. I don't think it happened today. I think it's going to happen on Thursday. Senate Finance Committee Chair said he doesn't know of any other Democrats who will vote against the IRS nominee, but at least 3 Democrats are expected to miss the vote on Werfel because of health issues. Feinstein and Fetterman admitted himself in the hospital. And Casper, I missed that one, announced on Tuesday that he has tested positive for COVID and will isolate himself at home. Manchin's opposition. So all it would take. Now let's think about this. It's 52-48. Manchin makes it 51-49. 3 lost makes it 48-49. Republicans, and but they won't oppose it, even though if it were reversed, just for principle, the Democrats would oppose it. They oppose everything, so they would oppose it. In my opinion, but the Republicans won't. Now, again, in the end, are they going to get somebody better than Werfel? No, Werfel he's a DC. Animal. He's one of them. Why wouldn't they vote for him? Anybody else they put in that job would be one of them too, though. Manchin said he couldn't vote for her because, this is another one. Manchin's opposition to Werfel comes a day after he said he would vote against Biden's nominee to sit on the Federal Communications Commission, Gigi Sohn, and she withdrew her. Manchin said he couldn't vote for her because she faced unprecedented bipartisan opposition to her nomination. I don't know if you've seen. We won't talk about that on this story, but I'm very happy that she had to withdraw. Manchin said to her nomination as a result of her years of partisan activism, inflammatory statements online, and partisan alliances with far left groups. That sounds like everybody in the Biden administration. Sohn announced she would withdraw herself. Let's go back to the story. Sohn announced that she would withdraw herself for consideration shortly after Manchin made his statement and said, "Unrelenting, dishonest, and cruel attacks on my character and my career as an advocate for public interest have taken an enormous toll on me and my family." Manchin on Wednesday also said he has serious concerns about Biden's nominee to serve as Assistant Secretary of the Interior for Land and Minerals Management. So he's got another one. Somebody must have got him mad because he's going against everything. So here's the final story I wanted to kind of at least talk about a little bit. Because we've talked about this on this show before. The IRS is trying to eliminate paper tax return backlog with digital scanners. We talked about this, like the $14 billion a year that they've been getting, or $12 billion, was never enough. They couldn't buy themselves scanners. Most state taxing authorities scan everything, but not the IRS. They didn't scan everything. Paper was once dubbed the IRS's kryptonite by national taxpayer advocate Aaron Collins in an earlier report to Congress. And the Internal Revenue Service now must find a way to deal with paper returns and ultimately avoid another situation like the brutal, well-publicized backlog of paper returns that hit the agency after the COVID pandemic took off 3 years ago. But more than that, because it's more than that, because of the... Remember, I reported on this space before about the 30 million information returns that the IRS destroyed without telling anybody. And it was over a year later before anybody found out about it. And it wasn't because the IRS told everybody about it. They just destroyed them and didn't tell anybody. And then an Inspector General report found out what happened a year later. Okay, that was 30 million paper documents that the IRS destroyed. The IRS announced Wednesday that it took an important step to expand its digital scanning of paper returns, a process that was pushed for years by tax professionals and taxpayer advocates' office. Wonder why that is. Collins wrote in an early report that the IRS has failed to make progress in eliminating its paper backlog because its pace of processing paper tax returns has not kept up with new receipts. Well, that would put you behind, right? The IRS said in a statement Wednesday that the agency already has scanned more than 120,000 paper forms 940s since the start of this year's tax season, a 20-fold increase compared to all of 2022. The Form 940 is filed with employers and addresses payments made under the Federal Unemployment Tax Act, along with state unemployment tax systems. The FUTA tax provides money for paying unemployment compensation to workers. The IRS said its digital intake effort will expand soon to include scanning of Form 1040 and Form 941, another business-related form, payroll taxes. The IRS is aiming to digitalize more paper to be more efficient in the processing and storage of tax documents. Most tax returns are filed electronically, but but millions of forms are still filed by paper, which the IRS said involves a time-consuming process of manually handling and transcribing of the returns. They do it 2 or 3 times. We are making significant progress in this effort, and we look to expand scanning efforts dramatically in the months ahead and working toward a fully digital future in 2023. You got to laugh, because it's ridiculous, said Harrison Smith, co-director of the IRS Enterprise Digitalization and Case Management. They have a digitalization and case management office, and they don't have digitalization. How does that work? Once the IRS can electronically process paper returns, taxpayers can expect to see a shorter processing time if they must file paper returns. E-filing is still recommended. Deputy Treasury Secretary Wally said automating paper-based processing is one of the highest priorities as the IRS upgrades its technology. The IRS currently enters the numbers from paper returns into its computer one digit at a time, like they've done since 1960s. The IRS is on track to scan millions of returns this year, delivering significant service improvements for taxpayers, including faster processing and refunds. Well, when their ass is on the line, they can find ways to get it done. Because that $80 billion, they don't have that $80 billion yet. How are they doing the processing now? How are they digitalizing now? That's a good question, don't you think? Because again, they didn't get the money yet. They haven't gotten the 80, but that was just passed in August. They haven't even come out with the report that was supposed to tell us how they're going to spend the $80 billion. That report was due last month. And we still don't have that report. And we don't even know when that report's coming. And we don't even know if they're going to publish that report and make it and be transparent to tell us what they're going to do with the money. They haven't decided yet. Anyway, that gets me riled up. I don't want to be riled up, but that does get me riled up. Okay, thanks so much for joining us. I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe. Smash the button. I hear that a lot on videos. So smash the button. Get notified when we post another video. Usually we post videos every night about 7 to 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. So please like and subscribe. That's the only way we're going to get this information out. And remember, if you have IRS problems, if you owe the IRS money, or if you have unfiled tax returns, you should, and you don't know what to do, get a copy of my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem. Today, that's the first thing you should do. Go to freeirsbook.com, freeirsbook.com, get your free copy, and I will pay for the printing if you pay for the shipping and handling. So go to freeirsbook.com and get your free copy. Thanks so much for joining us. We will see you next tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday, with another edition of today's Tax Talk. In the meantime, God bless you, and we are now out.